we have different principles than any place I've worked with before. And those principles are quick and thoughtful, treat it like it's your own, and make shit fun. When you start a company, and when we co-founded the company, we had expectations of how we thought it was going to go from a best case scenario and how we thought it was going to go from, not so best case scenario. If you think about the Lions right now, Dan Campbell is a presence. That guy has an identity, and that team has a culture. It's like they're ground and pound, they're fierce, they go after the quarterback. I'm still figuring out, like, what is that identity and how do we drill it in day out? I know it's for Better Media, but we're still working, we're less than a year old. How do I make sure that our teams know what Better Media is?
We are recording. Okay. So I guess I could call you my triple threat guest. We got
I need
Danny
the jacket.
Weisman.
I need
You need a jacket.
Yeah, exactly.
The three-peat jacket. That's it. So Danny, you were the first guest to come back.
Yes.
For a third time. So great to have you back on. I know we said 2 years ago we were going to make this an annual thing, and we've stayed pretty true to it. We might be off a couple of weeks, a month here or there, but yeah. So how are things in New York? I hear it looks and acts a lot like Canada right now. Not only are you guys winning hockey gold medals, but you've got like 10 feet of snow.
It's cold, man. This is when I'm a native New Yorker. It's definitely been one of the worst winters I can remember. Winters hit harder when you have kids because a lot of things shut down. You're not able to get out of the house. You got to keep those kids entertained. So I feel like I didn't notice the downsides of a snowstorm. Like, I grew up in the New York City public school system. No snow days. Typically, it was just, it would be the rarest thing ever. And there actually was a snow day for New York City public schools the other day, which just shows the magnitude of that storm a couple of weeks ago. But it's been very cold. But it's been cold up by you too?
It's been cold. It hasn't been as snowy. We've had our share of snow this year, but we didn't get hit with the same storm that you guys got hit with. And even so, when I was growing up, again, in the public school system, they were hesitant to shut down class as well, but they canceled the school buses. And I could never understand how a big, powerful diesel-powered bus couldn't make it through the snow, but you were expected to walk half a mile.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, to be honest, and this sounds old school, but I come in every day to the office, every single day. And even after there was a snowstorm in January, a lot of things were shut down that Monday. I go, nope, I'm going to the office. And so I feel like the old timers that are like, when I was your age, I walked 5 miles to school.
Uphill both ways and barefoot.
Uptown, downtown, exactly.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, but things are good. Things are good in New York.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Let's jump into it. So, Obsessed Media, here we are 1 year later. Not necessarily to the date, but you've got about 11 and a half, 12 months worth of work under your belt. So, how are things going, and what's changed in that year for you and Barry Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it both feels like yesterday and 5 years later. It feels like a lifetime, and I've learned so much. A lot of this is like, you learn a lot about yourself. And you learn what, when you start a company, and when we co-founded the company, we had expectations of how we thought it was going to go from a best case scenario and how we thought it was going to go from, not so best case scenario. And I think this has exceeded our biggest expectations in this first year. Honestly, we've been able to work with a variety of awesome brands, awesome client partners, work with a lot of different media partners to help elevate those brands, bring on some staff, which honestly wasn't necessarily something Barry and I were expecting to do so quickly, but it was just the demand that we saw and the clients that we worked with. We wanted to bring more people into the fold and bolster the team. So it's been a crazy ride, if I'm being totally honest. And when I say I've learned a lot about myself, I went into this having expectations, but until you're really in it, you don't know how you're going to respond to it. And both positively, but also things that I think I needed to adjust on my end. Like I said before, I have a 2-year-old at home. That's a volatile experience. She's the best. She's my favorite thing in the world, but also, terrible twos is a thing. Just adjusting to the lifestyle of a founder where you want to be on the clock all the time. You want to be working hard all the time. You want to be servicing your clients, but you still have a family at home. You still have hobbies. You still have friends. And like, how do you balance those things? And that was something that was an interesting adjustment too. But for the most part, this has been an unbelievable experience. Still feels like we're just getting started. And, I'm really proud of the progress and the success we've had so far.
So we'd say time management was a big thing that you had to, I guess, grapple with or learn about yourself.
Yeah, and time management for me too, like, we named the company Obsessed for a reason. I go so deep, in so many different areas of media, whether it be in the actual work, whether it be reading about the industry, whether it be reading about other things that I think are just gonna inspire me about the industry. But I wanted to take it up a notch when I founded this company, and I think that would be natural to anyone when it's finally your name on the door and when it's finally your product that you wanna put out in the world, you don't wanna leave anything on the field. You wanna make sure that you put your best foot forward. Um, so managing even more time towards my career was just something that definitely I had to wrap my head around. But it's something that I feel like I'm getting in a groove now, for sure.
Don't forget to add in not just reading about the industry, but writing about it.
Sure.
I plug your LinkedIn to anyone. I said you've got to
Thank you.
look up you've got to look up Danny Weisman from Obsessed Media. If he doesn't connect with you, just follow him because his posts are great.
I hope you plug that to LinkedIn because the algorithm keeps pushing it down and down, and I feel like my posts are just. I feel like, and I don't know how much experience you have writing on LinkedIn, but like I feel like just like the posts in general are not ranking to the top like they used to, and so I'm finding it a little more. I don't know. It's not. It doesn't have the same
It doesn't have the same level
mirror
of
as it used
reach.
to. Yeah.
So the LinkedIn conspiracy theorists that I've kind of followed or listened to, they've said that the hack is post with a photo and don't put a link in it whatsoever. Because as soon as you're
Right.
linking out of
Right.
the platform,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
deprioritize you.
And
Yeah, I've noticed.
I've
Yeah,
tried
go ahead.
everything, and I've tried post in, post first comment, I've tried liking the comments, I've tried engaging with the comments, I've tried long, I've tried short. And honestly, in the past, it was like the more provocative you were, the more you stirred up conversation, the more
Mhm.
engagement you got. It was like, somewhat like X in that regard. But recently I think it's been a lot more like not necessarily serving up timely content, but just timeless content. So like if something resonates with you, I'll get likes on something from 5 weeks ago. But if it still is something that people are interested in. So I don't know what the rhymes or reason are. I just know they're tinkering with it a lot, and it's kind of taking the wind out of my sails a little bit because I don't write on LinkedIn for engagement. I don't write on LinkedIn to get those likes, but I do write on LinkedIn because I do like the discourse. I like when people comment. I like when people make me, you know, make me smarter. That I've had so many posts in the past where I've written stuff and someone will write a comment just shutting me down, and I'm like, you want? I want to redact what I said now. Like that was an amazing point, but I don't even feel like I'm getting that feedback loop anymore from LinkedIn. And that's what's frustrating as a writer because like I don't write to just make sure everyone knows I'm right. I want the feedback. I want the feedback loop.
Yeah, it is a two-way street, and we seem to forget that. But what I'm gonna do to help you with that is on the screen right now, I'm posting
Let's
the
go.
URL to your LinkedIn profile. So if you wanna hear more about what Danny has to say, definitely jump into that because I love your stuff. And we're gonna get into like the most index and everything else, but I wanna stay on Obsessed Media for a little bit more. You said that you and Barry weren't expecting to grow the team over the last year. It sounds like when you guys started, you would have been content with it just being the 2 of you, and you said that's not the case, you've expanded. So you guys started as a duo. How many people, do you have in total now?
We have about 10 people total, which is
Jesus,
crazy.
that is a hell of okay, that's awesome growth.
We have 4 full-time, and then we have some, 4 freelance people that, whether it be in specific specialty fields or whatnot. But yeah, we've grown a lot. And, something I was thinking about as I was just thinking about this podcast and reflecting on the last year, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this was because I felt like at previous companies, the more I accelerated in my career, the less I was doing in the client work, and I
Mm,
love the work. I love it. I love being in the weeds. I love strategizing. I love being hand in hand with clients and talking about their problems and coming up with solutions. I love talking to the marketplace and finding interesting opportunities for our clients and making, matchmaking those worlds between amazing brands and amazing media brands. And I felt like as I kept growing in my career, and I might have said this last year too, that it felt like I was graduating out of my job into some
mhm.
middleman that I didn't really want to do. And it was felt like almost like I was having my own retirement party at 35. That like I had to now work on the agency that I worked at. I had to now manage a lot of people and almost like transfer my special sauce um onto them and onto the rest of the company. And like I think without having a stake or having control over that company, it's a little like, well, my special sauce is my sauce and I want to be in the work and I want to be not necessarily managing these other people. I want to be doing the work. And so it was really rewarding for me when we started this company that Barry and I, and we still are to this day, I don't think there will ever be a time when Barry and I are not talking to clients or not
Mm.
doing the work with clients or not front and center on calls or not presenting recommendations, because we love the work and we think we add value when we are in the work. um, So when we first started the company, it was amazing to just, have our duo, which we were successful with in the past when we worked together, and now bringing it to clients for the first time from Obsessed Media. Um, but it was, it was amazing. As we scaled that, it was like, oh my God, we need help. And we need help in a variety of ways. We need help for people to push us. I think we definitely prioritize senior talent, and we're not going to pretend that we have all the answers. There's plenty of experienced and amazing people out there. So we've been lucky enough to bring people on both freelance and full time that have pushed us from a senior perspective. I also think on the other end of that spectrum, we brought in some amazing young talent that not only has like a natural knack for media just by being consumers and by being young and by being like having a finger on the pulse of the marketplace. Like we have an employee here who, for a client of ours, was like, "Look, this TV show is blowing up." It was actually Heated Rivalry. It was like, and this wasn't like January, like popped his head up, like, "Oh my God, Heated." It was like, no, I've talked to a lot of my friends. This is like mid-December. Like this thing's a hit. Like we got to get in this for one of our brands, and we brought it to our brand, and we were like, let's go. And we were able to surround it. And it was a really positive experience for that client. And so that's not from being someone in the industry for 10, 15 years. That's just from someone being really finger on the pulse of like what people are interested in. And so the other end of the spectrum has been hugely helpful to just keep us on our toes, bring new energy, and make sure that we had our finger on the pulse too on all the interesting media things going out there that, a couple old farts like Barry and I maybe aren't as tuned into. So um, I think with this team that we're building here, the theme is the same. We want people who are obsessed with better media. We want people who think about media in a bit of a different way, but also want to add value to clients all the time. And so that's been really cool to see.
Love that, we're gonna go back, we had a lot to unpack there, that was awesome, by the way, right down to
Cool.
heated rivalry, but going back to what you said about wanting to stay within the weeds, this is something that I talk to a lot of people about, where in our industry, a lot of the fun stuff happens entry level, kind of like mid-management level, especially if you're on the creative side of the business. It's like, you're all about storyboards, art direction, and so forth. You get to the top and you're like, "Oh, I'm hiring, I'm working on payroll, I'm doing spreadsheets." That's not really what I signed up for. And even in sales too, there's kind of this kind of like mid-level role called player coach where you still carry a territory, but you're also leading a team as well too. It kind of sounds like a weird conflict of interest, but that's something that I do in my job right now. And I love it because it keeps you sharp. And I think that's the point too,
Yeah.
is that it's like all the reading you do is wonderful, but you kinda have to play with the toys. You have to play in that space if you really wanna understand how people are doing it. Like, no one can just sit there and tell you. You can't read a book and go, "This is what Instagram's about." You've gotta be into Instagram. You've gotta watch those shows, like Heated Rivalry.
The weeds is the work. And like, I feel like there's so much shame in quote unquote being in the weeds. And look, like one of my problems of my career has been stretching myself thin and wanting, because I am so into this stuff that I try to put my hands around as many things as possible. Cause I both want to help, but I want to learn. I want to see new things that I'm unfamiliar with. I want to like try to tackle new problems, but the weeds are the work. And I feel like I'm so much more of an expert over this last year in media than I was in that previous year and the previous year before that, because I'm talking to more clients directly across many different teams, not just the media team that I would have worked with at previous agencies, but across brand marketing, performance marketing, product marketing, analytics, um, creator marketing. We're talking to way more, my exposure to the C-suite is way higher just as a
Mm.
co-founder. I'm not getting that same exposure if when I was a media director or a group media director at some previous roles, because you are the co-founder of the company. If you're getting hired, it's likely by the C-suite or the CMO or even the CEO. And I've talked to more CMOs, CEOs, more boards than I have in the previous, 5 years of my career combined. And that's amazing because not only do I learn from extremely smart people, but the caliber of the conversation is just way higher. And that makes the work better too. That makes you more in tune with what people really care about. What do they want the marketing investment to achieve? If their expectations are misaligned with that, how do you reset those expectations? And so the caliber of those conversations are different. So I'm both in the weeds at a bottom level and at a very high level, because and I think that's just been really interesting for me to experience, because you're just full of shit otherwise. You're just completely full
Yeah.
of shit. And if you don't know what's going on in a day-to-day perspective in platform, on Meta, in platform, on Google, or from a very high level within the organization, profit, revenue, you're full of shit. You're never going to be able to help your clients if you don't have that knowledge.
Going back to something you just said about knowing everything about meta and so forth, is it possible for you to know everything, or do you find that you have to delegate some of that knowledge out to some other people within the agency? Because that in this industry, That's a lot to take in. And when I started in broadcast God, I think, yeah, 20 years ago when I started in broadcast, the key was to understand what your schedule was and what the competing shows were, say, for example, in prime time at certain spots. But it wasn't all about learning all of these different platforms and their capabilities.
Yeah, I think you kind of said it almost inherently, which is like you need to have a criteria for what you're looking for in anything you do. And I think when we look at Meta, we're not necessarily looking for the same things that a performance marketer might be looking at. We're looking for other telltale signs that we think are important to buying better media. So one of our big products is a media audit, where we essentially go to a client and we say, "Hey, you have a marketing program. I guarantee we can find 15 to 20% of your budget that's wasteful or fraudulent or could be allocated to a better media channel that has higher attention and has higher impact." And we think that's important because we know how hard it is to ask for more money in 2026. If you have to go up to your CFO, and a lot of agencies will say, you don't have the budget to hit your goals, you're never going to break through in a market share if you don't have this much money. Well, how about look at the money you already have and look if that money's being spent appropriately. And so when we go into Meta, when we go into Google, we're not necessarily making, we're looking obviously at the performance metrics and the in-platform metrics, which to be honest are often inflated. And there are other measurement tools you have to look at to make sure that those media channels are delivering the value they say they are. But we're looking at things like what percent of your impressions are for over 3 seconds. There's so much research out there
Uh,
that even to make a memory, you need 2.5 seconds of exposure. Well, I've seen some marketing programs where less than 10% of the impressions are seen for more than 3 seconds, less than 5%. And if you're a challenger brand, how could you expect to break through if 95% of your impressions are seen for less than 3 seconds? And so those are some of the metrics that we try to look at and tell our team to look at when they're also auditing or looking at marketing programs, because there's a handful of metrics that we think are more important that the industry is overlooking that we can simply go to clients and say, look, this is what the data is telling us. And there's so much data being passed back from these platforms. They tell you who you're targeting. They tell you the age of those customers. They tell you the gender of those customers. We've
mm,
had some clients where we work with them. We ask them who their ideal customer is. And then we go into Meta and say, well, Meta, 80% of those impressions are towards an audience you don't even want to target. And it's just because you set your campaigns to broad and let the algorithm dictate who your customer should be versus any input from you as a brand. Now, you could say that Meta is smarter or these algorithms are smarter than we are, but we all know that there needs to be some input into these algorithms to make them work as hard as possible, whether it's first party data or brand preference, and then test your way to what works and what doesn't. So, very long winded way of saying, yes, we have a system of what we look for in those platforms, and we try to coach our teams on that because, I think we're still in the progress of really developing our identity. I think about this a lot. Well, I think about the Detroit Lions and how if you think about the Lions right now, Dan Campbell is a presence. That guy has an identity, and that team has a culture. It's like they're ground and pound, they're fierce, they go after the quarterback. I'm still figuring out like what is that identity and how do we drill it in day out. I know it's for better media, but we're still working. We're less than a year old. How do I make sure that our teams know what better media is, know what it stands for, how to spot bad media, and reallocate dollars into good media? And that's something that is very much top of mind for me, and I'm excited to keep exploring that over the year to come.
do you find as a manager and someone running an agency right now that as you look back with perspective, you're a little bit more empathetic to maybe some of the decisions your bosses at Noble People made? Like maybe you didn't understand at that point, but now that you're running the agency and you're their shoes, you're like, I completely see why they did what they did.
Percent. And I'll give credit to Noble People because I feel like I learned a lot there, both from a media planning and buying perspective, but also like the visibility you get at a small agency into some of those higher level conversations and
Mhm.
what goes into running an agency was really special. And I was privy to a lot of those conversations, and I give credit to the leaders of that organization for giving me exposure to that. Um, I have had a lot of fun though with Barry having those conversations for ourselves and seeing what we would say and figuring out what our creativity
Mm.
is when it comes to business and what decisions, when presented with a similar challenge, what are we going to do? And that's been really fun because then it's like, you sit in those rooms at another agency and you're like, you hear those conversations, and even hearing them is like awesome for someone because usually you don't even get to hear them. But then going on to decide them has been really cool. And I would say sometimes we make similar decisions to what I've heard before. Sometimes we're making completely novel or new ones for us. Um, but I do give a lot of credit to the folks at Noble and anyone running any media agency right now. It's not easy. AI is such a buzzword that gets thrown around. Um, there's so much confusion in the marketplace. I have a lot of respect right now for agencies because I think there's a lot of different agencies doing an exceptional job at one thing. So there's so many, when right now there's so many exceptional podcast agencies. There's so many exceptional out-of-home agencies. There's exceptional video agencies. What we're trying to be is integrated. There's not so many agencies that are exceptional at integrating those pieces together. I think there's a lot of agencies that say they do integrated media, but really it's a lot of teams that sit in a silo. And I think I really admire the agencies that pick a thing and just go hard at it.
Going back to just running the business, though, gonna get really technical about this. Is nothing really to. Actually, sort of has something to do with media. Are there certain things that you find yourself doing differently than, say, things were done at Noble People? And I'm talking about like some of this can be very bland, benign, and boring stuff, like the way you're filing stuff away on the computer. Maybe say, for example, I don't know if agencies use a CRM or anything like that, but anything like that, you said, okay, in previous jobs, I wasn't really crazy about this system. Maybe you might have been vocal about changing it, but now that you're in the driver's seat, you're moving forward with processes that you want.
Yeah, I'll say this. We've grown really fast in the last year. So a lot of what we've been doing is kind of what we know. And I don't mean that we're like copying everything we did at previous agencies. I mean
But it
more,
might be hold on, but it might be table stakes though. Cause like here, let me this is something that I say to a lot of people. Pretend you were starting a tire company. You would want to make the best, most innovative tire company in the world, but you wouldn't sit there at the boardroom with Barry and the rest of your peers and go, do our tires need to be round? Like we've already like that debate's already been settled. You'd be looking at like compound and tread, but like you know where I'm going with it, right? Like,
yeah, I
yeah.
guess like the things I'll say, and this is where, like, when we listen to this podcast, I'm curious what my co-founder Barry would say. And this is the section where he's like, why the fuck did you say that? That's a terrible answer. Like, oh my God, man. No, we're not doing. I'll say this. Like, first of all, we have different principles than any place I've worked with before. And those principles are quick and thoughtful, treat it like it's your own, and make shit fun. And the last one is something that we're doing a lot of. So, for example, um, fuck it, I'll say it. We have a client that is a 401k brand.
Okay.
They're like anti-fidelity. And so we had one of our employees, the first slide of the presentation, go outside, take a picture of himself, giving the finger to Fidelity, like a Fidelity office. And we put that as the first slide of the presentation just to be like, we make shit fun. Like we're here for you as a brand. We did another thing where one of our clients, we did like a video to start off a presentation, just like in the spirit of the creative that they just made, just to like kick it off. So like we are trying to make shit fun because when we have fun, our clients have fun and the work is good. So that's number one. I think we haven't done anything around this yet, but I've been thinking a lot about team structure. I think the traditional team structure at a media agency is very like linear, and it's like media director, media supervisor, media planner, assistant planner.
Mhm.
We haven't formalized what our team structure is yet, but I don't know if that's the right team structure. Like it feels very like linear, and maybe it's better off like as duos. Maybe duos are a better team structure than just like having like a smorgasbord of people across different accounts. So that's another thing. Another thing too is we haven't. I don't want to say that this is a black and white decision, but all the agencies we've worked at have in-housed a lot of different media channels. We have buyers and specialists across many different media channels, but we are not one size fits all. And that's a business decision we've made for the time being. And what I mean by that is some agencies will have minimums. You can't go below a certain amount per month. Our minimums are lower than that. And sometimes, we're more flexible to work with because we don't have to work with you in just one capacity. We can deliver a media audit for you and walk away. We can give you a media audit and a strategy and then coach your internal teams on how to buy media better. That's a lot of what we do, is that we
Hmm.
get clients that come to us and basically have an in-house buying team, and they don't want to work with agencies because agencies want to take that buying away from them. The design of most agencies is I want to gobble up as much buying as humanly possible because I make a markup on the media spend. And so what we say is, no, you don't have to give us any buying, but we'll coach up your teams. We'll brief your teams. We'll brief your media vendors with you to make sure that you're buying better media, and then also reviewing their media plans and their buys and their proposals and monitoring reporting with them. They just don't have people that are integrated like that. Part of the thesis for the agency was there's a lot of brands out there that have in-house their media, but necessarily don't have the experts in-house that they want. For example, a lot of brands have social and search experts in-house, but don't have a video expert in-house or don't have an
Mm.
out-of-home expert in-house. But yet those people that are managing search and social have somehow found video on their plate or have found out of home on their plate. And that's where we come in. We give you expertise on video. We give you expertise on out of home or podcasts or creators. And we don't have to buy that media, but we'll tell you what's working and what's not from our vantage point and tell you what to buy moving forward. And then the last piece is we can do it all for you. We can plan your media, we can strategize, we can buy your media. We do that for some clients too. But I feel like that makes us way more of a flexible business option than any agency I've worked with before. And one that clients I think trust more because we say what we think you should have. We don't say like you should have the solution that just buys all your media for you. No, we take your challenge. We say, well, you think you should get an audit, a strategy, and we should buy one media channel for you. And then we're off to the races. Or you should get a strategy and an audit and then just keep us on as light consultation to make sure the buys go appropriately. And then I think that has been a good business unlock for us of we don't want to ever oversell ourselves to a client. We want to do what we're good at and what they need.
I like that second point because you're really leaning hard into consulting
Yes.
with that strategy. Like, you're always a consultant in some way, shape, or form when you're running a media agency and doing the planning and buying for a client. But that second part where you're really de facto mentoring and really trying to fill some gaps from that and teach them. Because I mean, I guess then would that be in a way sort of a quasi self cannibalizing strategy? Because you go in, you fix their media team, you offer them the support they need, but your goal then is to elevate them to a level, I guess, where they don't need you guys, and then you move on to the next group.
And we've run into that. I think that's our challenge that like we always think better media is necessary. And if you don't have someone watching that better media like a hawk, then it's eventually going to fall back into the same traps that it does. So re-auditing the media that's in market, making sure that, new challenges and new problems come up. But you hit the nail on the head. It's funny you say consultancy because our first creds meeting ever, we called ourselves a consultancy and it just bombed,
Mm.
completely bombed. Because I don't think people in this industry are ready, like they can't really conceptualize the value or what a consultancy is. So we've honestly avoided that language, even though that's like a lot of what our offering to date has been. But I think there's so much value that we can bring in a variety of different areas. And again, to your point, if we give you an audit and we give you a strategy and then you're like, I'm good, then what good are we going to do just hanging around? You know,
Yeah, that's a good point.
now I'm confident that there will be new challenges that come up in all the clients we work with day in and day out. There's a new challenge every month, if not every week and every day, that might require a new strategic input, might require a new media solution. But if we're just talking about the same stuff every week, that's where clients get frustrated because you go on a Zoom call with 14 faces, 12 of them are on mute, 13 of them have their square dark, and you just talk about the same stuff over and over and over again. Nothing gets better. And then it's like, well, what are we doing here? And then that agency eventually gets let go anyway. So for us, it's more about how do we help our clients the most we can? We think we can do it all the time, but we're never, if a client doesn't believe so, and we've had clients too that have lapsed before, then it's better to just touch base and see when things come up in the future.
Let's look at the client base for a second. I'm not going to ask you about specific clients, that's confidential, but let's talk client categories. Were there any categories that you brought on this year that were categories that you and Barry had not touched in previous jobs? So you guys had to do a little bit more learning on your side in order to support them properly.
That's a great question. We had a great network just that we've built up over the years. And so there were some natural fit brands that we have a lot of experience in, like fintech, CPG, B2B. I think those are three areas. And also like emerging tech and like D2C. But, we worked on an apparel brand late last year. It didn't have a ton of apparel experience. We worked on some other categories too that were a little fresh for us. What I will say is that most of the clients that we work with have been in some of those spaces, at least from the get-go, that we've worked with before. The other thing I'll say too is that over the last, I would say 5 years, the number of different brands and categories that we've worked on has been exponential, partially because the model at our last agency was for people to work on 3, 4, 5 different accounts at the same time. So I was working on, sportsbook gambling and cannabis and tech and B2B and CPG, like all at the same, and fintech all at the same time.
That's a
And
hell of a mix.
exactly. It was a hell of a cocktail, literally, with the CPG, with the cannabis poured in. So I got a lot of experience, and what you get with that is you notice the similarities, and what works at a broad sense is kind of the same across a lot of different categories. Our principles from a media planning standpoint are be big to someone, optimize for attention, and prioritize context. And I think every single brand I've worked on, when you've done that right, you've been able to break through regardless of the category. Um, and also there's some like transfer of like knowledge from category to category by working on sportsbook And cannabis, you get a really strong sense of regulations and what's
Mhm.
allowed in certain industries and what's not. From working on, CPG, you get some sense of retail. So I think there's like all these different like um, brands that you could transfer the knowledge a little bit, category to category.
It's funny that you bring up cannabis and, the restrictions around it. A friend of mine, Mike Rumble, who was a guest back in the summer, they had a cannabis brand at his agency at one point, and kind of the joke was, even though he was really only half joking, was that they knew the legalization bill like the back of their hand. Like they basically had to become their own lawyers. They had legal support,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they,
yeah.
they had to know it, or else one slip up, then it becomes a bigger problem than worth having.
And I think some of that stuff is fascinating. I remember when we pitched way back when Cresco Cannabis, when I worked at Noble People, like the amount of diligence that we had to do for the pitch, because also you don't want to show up in a room like an idiot. You don't want to be like, yeah, you
Mhm.
could do this. And then they're like, you lose because you literally didn't do your homework when you come in the door. But like, you have to be certain amount of feet from a school. You have to be from state lines. You have to be, have certain outdoor advertising limits. Obviously there's a percentage of certain types of customers. There's only so many partners that accept that kind of advertising. That's the stuff we obsess over, though. Like I'm into it. Like I like knowing those facts because I think it's really interesting.
See, you know what I'd find fascinating about a brand like cannabis or like a category like cannabis or even gambling is going in and finding, I don't want to say a loophole, but a new way to target or a new way to deliver creative. Give you an example. A couple companies back when cannabis was legalized in Canada, you could post it on, it had to be on sites that clearly were angled towards adults 18 plus or adults 19 plus. And one of the workarounds we found was age gated creative. So it
Yep.
was like the creative loaded up, it was gray and it said, click here if you're 19 plus. You clicked it and then the gray went away and your big box appeared.
I
Like
love that.
little things like that, and clients were okay with it. They knew that it was so tight that they're like, "We get sometimes the impression you deliver is gonna be, uncovered, and you can track it either way, but this is kind of the world we're living in if we wanna advertise online."
Yeah, the loophole is some of the ones we did where you couldn't advertise on YouTube or Google at the time. And so one of our workarounds was we worked with this podcast and we sponsored their YouTube video and they wore like t-shirts and like had the sign on the desk and it didn't get
Mm,
flagged. Like we were able to do that. There's another company I was talking to and I don't know if we ultimately, I mean, I had left my last agency at that point, but it's a company called Rembrandt and they basically do like AI stuff in like YouTube videos. So they'll like superimpose like a logo or like a can of Coca-Cola on a podcast host desk when it's not really there on YouTube. And part of me was like, can I also superimpose the Cresco logo? I don't think I was like, can I superimpose some blunts or anything like that on the desk? But like, can I superimpose the logo on all these like different like YouTube videos? And like that was a workaround. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, that's like and that's how you win awards. That's how you win attention. That's how you really do drive business results because part of that is just opening up new inventory to reach new customers. So I think that stuff's great.
perfect. Danny, we're gonna jump on a couple of other things because I know that, time is tight here, but let me drop the URL in there. So if anyone wants to get in touch to talk more about Obsessed Media, can they go to the site? Another way to reach you, what's the best way they can do it?
LinkedIn, my email address, Danny at obsessed-media.com. The dash gets some people, but yeah, reach out to me there.
All right, perfect. Oh, and let's close with one thing. You guys are moving into a new office. That's
We
coming up soon. It's probably going to happen before as this goes live next week. So how was that though? Finding real estate like that must have been kind of like someone buying their first home for their family.
It's crazy. Look, man, the whole thing's been crazy. Like it's just been such a ride. It's amazing that we're gonna have a space. We were in a co-working space previously, and just to have a space and call it our own, it feels real. It feels like we are doing it. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting process, but I'm really proud of the space we have, and I'm really proud that we're gonna be able to have our folks there. And like I said earlier in the podcast, we come in 5 days a week, mostly. There's a couple exceptions that, job market's tough, but
Mm.
that's our advantage as a small company. And that's our advantage as a new company. When everyone else is mailing it in on Friday and everyone else is mailing it in on Monday, we're not. We're here. We're obsessing over media. We're making better media plans. We're doing our media audits because that's how we're going to move fast. And that's what I'm proud of. I want this company to be a company that everyone loves working for and everyone just loves the work. And that's I'm proud that we now have like a space to do that in.
Well, some of your obsessions are communicated through the most index, which by the way, you should trademark that.
I should. I got bad news. We're gonna pivot. We're gonna pivot from the
We're
most index.
we're pivoting from the most index. Okay, so what do we have in place of the most index? Anything?
So
Is that TBD?
no, no, no. I got well. I've been doing so. We'll back it up. The most index Victor is right. I probably should have been like, hey man, I got a new spin on this. Um,
Okay.
I've been doing the most index, and I was doing it last year because I just thought it was interesting to monitor what people were just doing the most of in media, or what websites they were going to, what TV shows they were going to. What I found over time is that it didn't really change. Like it just didn't really change. And like I thought that was like kind of interesting in and of itself that like, you're gonna have your top websites, you're gonna have your top creators, you're gonna have your top TV programs, and probably following it month to month is less interesting than following it year to year. But what we've been doing for brands and clients is we started up a newsletter. It's called What We're Obsessed With. There's some topics on there that I could bring up and I can raise to you. I can give you some trivia or ask you.
Okay,
Uh,
please go for it. But if they wanna let's jump on this right now. If people wanna sign up for the newsletter, where can they go?
so it's kind of invite only at the moment. It's just for clients and
Okay, invite only.
invite only. So reach out to me if you want a newsletter. I might put you on the list, but we try to keep it because we think it's just a good opportunity to show clients how obsessed we are, and keep it like a little in house, just with some stats and stuff that we've seen in the marketplace that we think is interesting.
All right, yeah, throw some trivia my way.
Okay. Oh, I don't know if this is trivia. Well, yeah, sure. I'll ask you. Let's see. Hold on. This is okay. What month last year saw the 5 of the top 10 highest streamed days of all time?
Ooh, last year. I gotta pick a month. I probably wanna say December or
You're close.
November.
It was November. Very
November,
good.
okay.
And Stranger
Yeah.
Things is the driver. Uh,
Okay, I wasn't even thinking Stranger Things. I was thinking for some reason, it just seems like a lot of the streamers like to pack their content into, like, leading up to the US Thanksgiving and the holiday season. Like, there seems to be a number of releases at that point.
yep. And I don't think it's rocket science, but it's just good to know that, like, okay, when are the schedules releasing? When are people going to be at home viewing? Yeah,
Mm,
November CTV buy with some incremental dollars. That's probably a good media strategy. But I do have another trivia question for you, which
m'kay.
is around this one pretty interesting, which is okay. Live events drove what percent of all major streaming sign up events in 2025?
I gotta come up with a percentage?
A percentage.
Oh, boy. So you're saying that these live events were the reasons, or at least the inferences is that the reasons people signed up. So that you saw these signups happen just before. I'm gonna go with, I think I saw some 32%.
60%.
Oh,
Live
I was
events
way
drove
off.
60% of major streaming sign up events, which to me also means because we used to have this theory that you shouldn't necessarily be in every CTV partner all the time from
Mm,
a media buying perspective. There's no reason to be on Hulu 12 months of the year. What you want to do is find each month what's the major program that's coming out and gravitate to that program or that service that month to capture new eyeballs, to go after that audience. And we used to think, okay, entertainment specials or entertainment programs would be good for that. If only Murders in the Building was coming out this month, we were going to go do that. But what I think is interesting is that sports really drives those eyeballs, really drives those signups or live events. So people are going to rush into Peacock in September because they have like an NFL game or something like that. Maybe Peacock in September is also a good place that will get the draft off of that and see more people watching whatever other programming is on Peacock for that month. So I just think it's an interesting planning mentality to have that you don't need to be static in streaming. You should probably follow these trends where when are live events coming out on a service? When are there major programs coming out versus just like I'm going to be on, like I said, Hulu every month.
okay, and do they see any drop off after that as well? Like, let's say, for example, someone signs up to Peacock for the NFL season, and then maybe that was the driver for it. Super Bowl happens. Actually, not even the Super Bowl, because assuming Peacock doesn't even have the Super Bowl after the playoffs are over, are they seeing subscribers dip because they want to, I guess, save their money for September?
Good question. I think so. This year, NBC did this like amazing. They called it Legendary February, where it was like they had the Super Bowl, they had the Winter Olympics, and they had NBA All Star Game. And so like that's also how they got a lot of advertisers to match their media spend from the Super Bowl. So when you do a Super Bowl ad commitment, let's say you spend $8 million on a 30-second ad, you also have to spend $8 million with the network and other sports programming. This year, they were pretty much saying you had to spend it in the Winter Olympics. So they were
Mm,
also
okay.
a lot of ad revenue in February, but also they were probably able to get a lot of stickiness in February too this year. And so there is definitely drop off. I've seen some stats though that the drop off isn't as massive as you think after these live events. So there definitely is some drop off, but these services are also retaining customers too that are likely to still have it. Whether they forgot about it or not and are engaging on it is another story. But that's why I think it's good to consult, try to angle your media buys around those events as much as you can.
And speaking of some of those events, Free Solo, like, where does that straddle? Like, it's a live event, it's a sport, but not a sport in a traditional sense, like, say, for example, the Christmas Day NFL games on Netflix. And how do you advise a client whether or not to be in a show like that where an actual show has a backup plan in case the guy falls off the building? Like, I had that finally came out a week or two later. Like, what kind of conversation would you have with a client about being in Netflix around that kind of content?
I mean, I don't think they had brands because of that. And I think that was part of the shtick. But I don't know, Red Bull, energy drinks,
Yeah,
there's got to be
there's someone there.
there's someone there. I mean, look, there's another dirty secret in podcast advertising that, and I've seen, look, it's going to be brand dependent, but I've seen this on a number of different brands that true crime just crushes. True
Yes.
crime crushes. I've seen it in a number, and again, like I said, it's maybe brand dependent or audience dependent because I think it skews a bit more female, but true crime crushes. And then you think about it, do I really want my brand next to some episode about this gnarly murder from all these people? And that's a choice too. It's the same choice that people have to make probably around politics and news. So I think you
Mm.
talk to a client, you figure out what their comfort level is. You talk about, you see what the data says too, of okay, this is really working well. We can really double down there. And, the data starts to tell you what kind of brand response you have.
Okay, as we continue talking about streaming, we were going to talk about who would buy Warner Brothers, but that seems to have been settled tentatively. So it looks like Paramount is going to be acquiring Warner Brothers after Netflix, a day before we recorded this, bowed out and said, no, we're not moving forward with it, or we're not raising our bid. How do you think that's going to impact things? Because I have to imagine your Paramount Plus reps are just salivating at the chance to sell you Batman.
I got to give my Paramount Plus rep a shout out, Adam Gross. He's awesome. It's I used to, I wanted to, I had this idea, and obviously maybe it's illegal, that I wanted to trade stocks based on the quality of the ad reps that I interacted with. Because it's all right, if this company has terrible ad reps, I'm shorting this stock. If this company's in the tank, all right, this company has amazing ad reps, I'm in. I love these guys. And I don't know if that's how it works. But I think it's really interesting. Look, I haven't given I thought it was really interesting for Netflix because Netflix had such a nascent ad revenue arm and it's growing quite a bit. But now they were going to get all these other avenues to sell advertising in. And I thought that was really interesting from a Netflix perspective. For Paramount, obviously they have a very robust ad system. They're going to get access to so many, and the cable networks too, because Netflix is going to buy HBO Max and the theatrical, or the studios rather. And so I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm a little confused about how it's all going to roll up and work because to your point, Paramount Plus content and HBO content are so different. They're
Mm.
also two of the smaller streaming services, especially from not Paramount Plus actually, but from an ad supported standpoint, HBO Max is still growing that ad supported tier. And so I am curious, really what happens out of the gate. I mean, just to think out loud, I guess they'll have all the rights now to March Madness. Turner has the rights as well as CBS. So I think that's really interesting. They do pick off some more sports properties from Turner, whether it be the French Open. Turner doesn't have NBA anymore, but I think sports is going to be something interesting for this to lean into. I think from a kids content, obviously Paramount has Nickelodeon, and there's some kids content that Turner can bring to the table. And so I think there's going to be a lot of interesting properties together. But from an ad perspective, I'm not sure yet. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Well, I think it keeps the theatrical business in general going on for a little bit longer because that was one of the big concerns is that Netflix acquires Paramount and you're going to see fewer theatrical releases and more things going directly to streaming.
Yeah. And it's funny, we love cinema ads. We love buying them. We think they're effective,
Hmm.
especially for kids movies. One of our things is when you're a parent with your kids, you come to the movie pretty early and you settle down and you buy your stuff. So you're more likely to see those movie theater ads, maybe than some other demographics. But yeah, I'm happy about that. And I think we'll see. I think we'll see.
Well, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were on Joe Rogan about a month ago, and Matt Damon said something that really seemed to rock, I guess, the movie industry, where the writing direction they get from Netflix is that you've got to restate the plot at least 3 times in the movie because their own internal research shows that people are likely to be on their phone and distracted while they're watching the film. And I got to be honest with you, ever since I heard that, anytime I will watch a Netflix exclusive film, I'm kinda like not like making a drinking game out of it, but I'm kind of like looking for it. Okay, we're like 40 minutes in. Remind me that, you know, your parents were murdered and you're trying to avenge their death. That's the whole point of this movie. Like it's I don't even know where I'm going with this comment, but I feel like it's strange that we're allowing behaviors dictate the way content's going to be written. Although I guess that's kind of the way that it's been going all this time, but we've never seen it at that sort of like granular or creative or artistic level.
Yeah, I love this. You were like, I don't know where this is going, and what you triggered for me is less about streaming and more about advertising in general. You know, we every major platform, Meta, TikTok, Google, has trained all of our brains to only care about things in 3 to 5 second increments. And that's just it. And now we are like hooked on these apps that like literally we all have ADHD because it is so, because they are just literally training us to do so. And when we talk to brands, especially the ones that are so prevalent in social media, because social media advertising can be effective for sure. Is it a bit inflated at the moment, and maybe where brands are overspending, perhaps? But there's two ways to combat, that 3 to 5 second attention span. The first way is to diversify your channel mix, right? Be in more places where you can make an impact with that audience for longer, whether it's streaming or whether it's outdoor, whether it's podcasts. When people sit down and actually listen to something for longer than 3 to 5 seconds and they put it on for a half hour, 60 minutes. Um, or make sure your brand is distinctive as possible in that 3 to 5 seconds. And I think what Matt Damon is saying, like Netflix's answer to that is repeatedly saying the plot point. For brands, there's been such a lazy stance to just put your logo front and center for the first 3 to 5 seconds of every ad. Just make it so big and so prevalent and
Mm.
logo slap the shit out of that thing so everyone can just remember. Whenever, if nothing else, they'll remember that this was an ad for whatever. And that is the laziest possible thing to do in a social ad. It's also terrible. No one's going to remember because no one's going to care about your logo in the first 3 to 5 seconds. But there's been some great research from people from System One and other organizations of you have to make your brand distinctive in those first 3 to 5 seconds. That could be a mascot, that could be a celebrity you work with, that could be an audio jingle. And I think that is even more important today with TikTok and Reels and a lot more sound on environments, that there are ways you need to break through in those 3 to 5 seconds that aren't lazy by just saying the plot point or just saying the brand name, but could be really interesting and native to the platform that I think a lot of more brands need to explore. And so, yeah, it's sad, but I think you could either fight against the current, and brands should fight against the current more, or you could either adapt to the current. And I think that's what a lot of brands should be doing.
Okay, so staying on the topic of movies, you and I have to revisit something that we talked about last year. We were debating which of the 3 Marvel movies was gonna come out on top because there were only
You were
3
right.
releases last year. I think it's a bit of a draw. So, we already knew that Captain America: Brave New World wasn't performing very well considering the number of reshoots that had ballooned the budget. And then you were on Team Fantastic Four and I was on Team Thunderbolts. And from what I know, Fantastic Four grossed more than the Thunderbolts, but the Thunderbolts might be viewed as slightly more profitable because the Fantastic Four went through reshoots and it had a larger budget.
Not only profitable,
Uh,
I mean, like, I'll give you credit where credit's due. First of all, you were talking Thunderbolts before. It was even on my radar. That's number one. Number two was they debuted in different time periods. Like Thunderbolts was more of the Memorial Day
oh,
movie,
it
and
was it was April, yeah, April and July.
yeah, Fantastic Four had a way more favorable like slot in like mid July. So like I think that's also like a win for you in and of yourself. Like I don't know, like roles reverse how that would have played out. I think that Fantastic Four movie was so disappointing. It
Thank
really
you.
was.
It wasn't good at all. That putting them
No,
in
it wasn't.
another universe, I was like, why? Why? My whole thing was is that I think part of the reason they're losing people right now is because with this whole multiverse narrative, you're confusing people. Like, keep it simple because us diehards are going to go see it, but you're going to make a profit by getting the casual fan or the casual moviegoer coming in, and they're the ones you want to convert into. I guess you could say serious fans or you know what I'm saying, serious fans. But you've got to make it easy for them because if they get confused and they're asking why is this happening, why are they going through a portal, why is there 2 of them, then you're going to lose them and they're not going to go to the sequel.
And my head was just going to like, and I'm such a fucking nerd, but like just comparing this back to like brands and media and like whatever. And Victor's like, dude, I want to talk about movies. Stop doing that. But um, I think they introduced way too many new characters too quickly.
Mhm.
Right.
I
There was, and
agree.
that was because of the TV shows, even the Fantastic Four. That's four right there. Like, yeah, like, and also like most of the characters that weren't killed off or left in the originals, aside from Thor, I don't know, and I guess Spider-Man, people didn't have the biggest connection with Doctor Strange, Wanda, like whatever. Um, a lot of these people just aren't distinctive. There's no emotional connection to so many of these new characters. And I guess the biggest emotional connection they built over the last 5 years was Loki.
That
Right?
was a
Like,
surprise for them, yeah. That
yeah,
was a character that really took off with fans.
yeah. And so, like, I just think it's been way too many characters. You're not really sure who you're rooting for or why you're rooting for them or what they're even all about. And hopefully, with Doomsday, that starts to, but they've admitted their error. They're bringing these guys back. And so, like,
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but it seems like they're just like trying to get to X-Men. Like it feels like how
Yeah.
quickly can you get to X-Men as humanly possible without like while like building this thing back up. But I don't know.
The problem is they're trying to get to X-Men, but they're bringing back the old X-Men. Like, I
I
think
like either.
they've gotta leave it in the past. Like, the fact that you've got, oh god, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, and I'm not being an ageist, you could tell that they're basically being wheeled out there. I think in an interview, they've both said that they're really trying to wind down their career. I think Patrick Stewart even said too, like, his run on Picard after he was done was like, he's like, "I just don't have the energy or the vigor to continue doing something like that." So they're wheeling them back out for it. There's supposed to be other surprises, but at the same time, they're planting the seeds for mutants in the I guess you could sort of say the prime MCU. Like, if you watched Ms. Marvel, spoiler alert if you didn't, at the very tail end, I think it might even be in a post-credit scene where it's the first time you hear the term mutation learned. Have you heard about the rumors around, I think the actress's name, Sadie Sink, she's the redhead from,
Yes.
Stranger Things?
Yeah. I haven't
You
heard what are the rumors.
okay, again, spoilers again. 3, 2, 1. The rumor is that she's Jean Grey.
That's cool.
She's Jean the ru so the rumor is that she's Jean Grey, and the Punisher is protecting her in the new Spider-Man movie.
That's cool.
And,
Okay.
yeah, so that would be cool using her as kind of like the prime sort of alpha mutant, but my problem with making her central again is that this is your 3rd reboot, and we're gonna be leaning towards the Phoenix again.
Right. Right.
It's like we've already told that story twice.
Right. Right. In ways that I don't think we're fulfilling either time at the end.
I completely agree, but there's a certain point where it kind of leans too much into the superhero fatigue, and then you see people being critical about how everything is a reboot now, there's no original IP, which is a lot one of the topics I wanna get into about. It just seems like that might be the wrong direction, and I almost feel like because a lot of the other more established characters were used in the earlier phases, we're kind of transitioning into more of a mutant X-Men phase with a couple of other Marvel characters that weren't present when Fox owned the rights into that. So things like Spider-Man will be
You
a
like
little bit more present.
Deadpool?
The first one I loved. The second
No, the
one
Wolverine.
I thought it had no plot whatsoever. I thought it was more of
Same.
it was a nostalgia orgy. It was
It
just
was an
kind of
O.
like that's it. It's all it was. It was like it's like they were filling the gaps, like putting him in his yellow suit and giving him his mask that we'd been clamoring for since 2001. And seeing the two finally team up with each other because if you're a comics fan, you know that those two go together quite well. Like Deadpool actually debuted in a Wolverine comic. So we were looking for that. We got it, but again, it was I don't know, it wasn't I saw it once in the theater, and even though I've got Disney Plus, I just haven't watched it again. I'll watch the first one over and over again. I thought it was simple and to the point and funny and entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know about
Well,
you, I'm kind of a sucker for, good origin stories. Like, if you ask me about the Nolanverse, I like Batman Begins the best. If you go back to Bryan Singer's run on X-Men, I thought the first one was the best as well too, despite the
I liked
tacky leather
X-Men too.
suits. Actually, X2 was a good follow-up as well.
Yeah. So do you want to talk shop on movies? You want to talk 2026? You want to
Oh, let's go. That was the next bridge, was right into 2026. So we're looking at 2026, and it seems like we're going into a lot of remakes. Do you think that's a good thing for Hollywood? Like I think Scream 7. I didn't even know there was a Scream 6 and 5. That's coming up on
that
the
just came
horizon.
out, right? That came out or
It's
no,
it,
yeah.
it's I think they just had their, Hollywood debut or Hollywood opening a week ago, and it's coming out soon, but, yeah, we've got another Scream movie, and then we've also got a lot of other IP that's being remade, like Masters of the Universe. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that trailer, like, really had me going, but I'm kind of like, is it something that was I excited for the trailer, or
Well,
will I be excited for the movie?
last year with Sinners and One Battle After Another, and I didn't see Weapons, but it felt like, I mean, and those are a lot of Warner Brother movies. Like, it felt like a lot of cool originals came out last year, and I don't know what's from an original standpoint is on the slate for this year. I'll say that like I'm excited for a lot of these remakes. Like, I'm not probably gonna go see Toy Story 5 or the Super Mario movie, but like I feel like there's a lot of cool kids movies coming out this
Mm.
year. Spider-Man's gonna be out this year. I'm really excited for that. Excited for
That's the
Doomsday.
one I'm really looking for. I'm looking forward to Spider-Man more than Doomsday. I feel like Doomsday is going to be a serious take on Deadpool, sort of like a serious take of Deadpool and Wolverine, where there's a lot of nostalgia thrown out there, not a lot of logic connecting it together.
I'm excited because I mean, you seem to be more in the Twitterverse on this stuff than I am, but like I feel like there's been no, I mean, there hasn't even been a trailer for Spider-Man yet, right? Like they've been keeping that pretty in the dark.
Reddit, not so much on the Twitterverse, but Reddit, I'd say Reddit and YouTube. I've got a couple of creators that I follow. They've been really all over this and dissecting stuff and trying to piece it together. So
But there
that
hasn't been a
that
trailer for Spider-Man yet, right?
something sort of leaked allegedly, and no one can tell if it's like it definitely looks like someone tried to record it with their phone from afar. But nowadays, you don't know if someone just made something through AI and then recorded it from their phone and said, "Oh, I've got the real trailer. I was in the room and recorded it." So
Isn't
kind of
that
take it with a
rare
grain of
for a
salt.
July movie at this point? Like it's like I feel
It's
like
very rare. It's very
fantastic.
rare.
So, and I don't know if that's, they're definitely obviously building hype, but I'm excited for Spider-Man. I am excited for Doomsday. There's something about and the trail. I think they've done a good marketing job with like dropping those breadcrumbs and like, yeah, it's kind of corny that obviously Chris Evans is back and like these other guys are
Mhm.
back. I don't know. It's probably gonna be fun. Like,
It it
I don't mean like tonally fun. I mean like just like to see all these characters back in the universe.
See, it's gonna be fun. I'll watch it, like, I'll probably be there day 1 or day 2. When it comes to storytelling, I like when things are tied up and closed off. Like, I really, really enjoy some level of closure. I don't want it to go on forever and ever. I kind of make a joke, like, if you watch take a show like Smallville, went on for 10 seasons, I kinda look at that and go, "You can tell when the accountants got involved and the writers stopped writing." Because there was a certain point after, I'd say, season 5 or 6 where the writers were like, "Time to wrap this up," and the accountants came in and said, we're gonna back the truck up, and we're gonna keep paying you, and we're gonna keep going and going, going."
That's like every
Eh.
Showtime show, like
Oh, they
Dexter.
do that too?
Well, this was like back, like it was like Dexter, Weeds. I felt like Showtime was like we're HBO's little brother, and we just need more seasons to like retain subscribers. So like I felt like a lot of those shows just went on way longer. Homeland, then they
Yeah.
shut.
Homeland's a good one, that one. Although I will say the final season, they did a great job of bringing it full circle with the whole kind of, like, original prisoner of war concept that,
I didn't
because I know
watch.
that. Oh, you didn't watch it?
I didn't watch till the end. I think I
Oh,
ended it. Spoiler alert! After
I just spoiled it. I
that's
just
okay.
spoiled it.
I'm never gonna
Well
watch it.
well, no, no, did you, you know how it's based on an Israeli show, right, called Prisoner of
Yes.
War? They that line, they kinda bring full circle into it. So if you were to call the show Prisoner of War, you'd be scratching your head up until that last season.
Okay, cool.
So that's what I will say, it is definitely worth watching. The last season was pretty good. I felt like it's one of those seasons, one of those shows that, like you said, was falling off, but then the last season was a really good redemption arc, for the writers.
Are you excited for Dune 3?
Didn't even see Dune 1 and 2.
Wow,
Just it just I tried when it came on streaming, and I was just like, "This is just isn't for me."
interesting.
I just couldn't get into it. I will say I played the role-playing game on my computer, my 486
Okay,
computer in the '90s, so that was my exposure to Dune.
love it.
But, yeah, no, my movie of last year was Formula 1, and being a big racing fan, I went into it a little unsure of what to expect, but I will say, if you're a diehard racing fan, you can tell that they did their homework. They d
It
e
was
even
awesome.
It was a great movie, and what I liked about this as a sports movie is that they're competitors, not heroes and villains, 2 people that have earned their way, people who have earned their way to be on the grid who wanna win, and you can't blame them for wanting that, but there wasn't any sort of, like, malicious behavior between anyone, and I
No, no,
really
no, no.
enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome.
Okay, so let's keep going on 2026 for a second. What films, what films are you keeping an eye on?
For, like, my personal interest or
Just in general, because one thing that's got my attention is Disclosure Day. Like, I think that's gonna be a really, really, really big hit. Like, I've watched that trailer so many times that I could stitch it together and make a movie out of it.
My big thing is like there's just so many kids movies coming out. Like from like April through end of July, I think it's Super Mario Brothers, Toy Story 5, Minions, Spider-Man. I think there's another one I'm missing. Like there's a lot. And I'm just curious like what fatigue exists around that, if any, because I feel like that's like the one thing that a lot of these studios are like banking on, like parents movies, parents movies.
Mm.
Um, so I'm just curious to see how all that plays out. From a personal interest standpoint, it is those superhero movies. Like I am really and Dune. I'm pretty pumped about Dune. Like I'm not like a Dune nerd by any means, but I Dune 2, maybe it's because when Dune 2 came out, I think it was like around the time when like we had our we had our daughter and it
Mm.
was like our first date out of the house after that was Dune 2. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like being out of the house and I'm watching this epic thing. So I don't know, good memories. I'm excited for that movie. But yeah, that's what I'm keeping an eye on.
Well, Dennis Villeneuve, I believe he was signed to, do the next James Bond movie,
Yes.
so that guy's definitely rolling in it right now.
100%. 100%.
Okay, so we've got remakes, but let's move on to sports quickly because last year we spoke about we were talking about the NBA All-Star Game.
Sure.
And really, really quickly, something interesting about that All-Star Game this year. I didn't watch it, but someone was posting videos from the Upper Bowl. I think they were playing in LA where the Clippers play, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's a relatively new stadium or arena that we should point out. And they were showing that more or less it didn't seem like they were anywhere close to capacity. But something interesting, they had lights on the back of the chairs and the lights were flickering to make it seem like there were
Right.
people in the crowd. And
Right.
something else that I noticed too was Royal Rumble was in Saudi Arabia, and the same thing was going off as well too. And during the Royal Rumble, it was even weirder because it was very rhythmic, kind of like
Mm.
they were doing the waves. Like you could tell that these are not people. And so let's bring it back to the NBA All Star Game. A lot of people were critical about it. We talked about what to do. Let's talk about the Pro Bowl because that seems to be like the one thing the NFL cannot stick the landing on, an All Star game.
I don't know. I mean, look, it's just like I think the Pro Bowl is more problematic than the NBA All-Star game because we see how gruesome NFL injuries are and
Mm.
how uh like happenstance they are. Like they're so random. And so I understand why not wanting to apply yourself in a game has more stakes in a NFL All-Star game than it does a NBA All-Star game. I think just money talks with all this stuff. I mean, the Phoenix Suns owner the other day said, I'll give $1 million to the winner of the or maybe it was $10 million to the winner of the All-Star game. And I just think money talks. And like if there was like an incentive for any of these players to actually play hard, they would do it. But because there's not that incentive and because an injury, a freak injury, is like more, not definitely going to happen, but the problem you never know with those probabilities. I don't know how the NFL fixes it. I really don't. I don't know if it'd be cooler though to do like what's the 3 point? I mean, they tried to do this with the skills challenge, and
Mm.
that's kind of boring too. I don't know.
I'd say dump it and add an extra week to the regular season. I think everyone would
Definitely
appreciate
gonna do
that.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I've heard that that's definitely coming.
Maybe it'd be funnier if we finally got. I mean, I'm a Jets fan, and I feel like the thing that everyone always talks about. I mean, obviously this would never happen, but if I was SAR for a day, that you actually have during that week, you have the worst NFL team play the team that won the college football championship. And you're just like, okay,
Ooh.
run it, college football championship. We're running. We play the whatever that final on January 19th. 2 weeks later, you get to play the Jets, and let's see who wins. That would be way more entertaining than. And there was like a mandate from the league that you have to do this. So I don't know.
Well,
Random idea.
considering the way some of these college, players are making money off, name and likeness, they might even be making more than some of the Jets players on the low end.
100%. And I think that gets 10 million viewers, maybe 15 million viewers. Like I feel like a lot of people go and watch that game. So I don't know. I think that could be cool. Yeah, the All-Star game stuff, but I feel like this is a thing in every single. I mean, maybe not I don't know. I
I
mean,
think
I don't
baseball's still holding tight with the home run derby.
yeah.
Like, you hear about that way more than I think the All-Star game.
What I think is interesting this year is that Netflix in the US at least, I don't know about globally, but has MLB opening day, the home run derby, and maybe
Okay.
a couple other things. So like actually Netflix is dipping their toe in MLB, and I think that and they actually also had the Field of Dreams game. So I think that's like interesting for Netflix that they're gonna like dip their toe into MLB in the same way that they're doing it with NFL. But like, how do we eventize? There's a rumor that so their opening day game is the Yankees versus the Giants, and there's a rumor that so they have CC Sabathia on the broadcast. There's a rumor they're gonna have Barry Bonds too. and Barry
Mm,
Bonds, like, has been, like, in the dark almost, amidst all the steroid scandal stuff, so, yeah, they're doing interesting stuff too.
kinda like his Pete Rose redemption tour, if you will.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly.
okay, before we go to rapid fire questions, because I wanna be mindful of time, you brought up something interesting about Netflix dipping their toe into sports even more, and we've been talking about how nostalgia is really, really lucrative. Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano, that came out of nowhere last
Yep,
week.
yep.
Are you looking forward to that, and how do you think that will do?
I think all of these events on Netflix are gonna do well. Like, Netflix's reach is so big, and they have an audience for everyone that I really am surprised, like, yeah, I think it'll probably do well. Now, what does well mean? Does that mean 5 million viewers, 10 million viewers, 20 million viewers? I think it'll probably be similar. I think Paramount Plus got, what did they get for the UFC opening night? Maybe 2 million. Maybe that's right. In the US, so maybe it'll do a million. Maybe not as much as that, but like maybe like a million viewers. So I just think Netflix has such reach that they're able to get so many numbers. But yeah, it's completely random, and we'll see how it goes.
I'm curious to see what the UFC's response is. I don't know, specifically because this isn't a UFC sanctioned event. So you theoretically could have a for the first time in God knows how many years, a mixed martial arts tournament not sanctioned by the UFC that actually outdoes any other UFC event within that calendar year.
I just think it's, you know, it will be. Look, live sports is such a thing that obviously every streamer, every media company, everyone is so focused on. It has to give at some point though, right? Like the fact that you need 7 different services to watch an NFL game, and
Mm.
these other sports are carving themselves up to a variety of different places. It's gonna be interesting to see when that fatigue sets in and what, how people respond.
All right, Danny, we're going to jump into rapid fire questions. And because you're a third time guest, I've had to revamp the rapid fire questions again. So we already kind of spoke about it, broadly speaking, but specifically, what is the 2026 movie that you are looking forward to the most? Only can pick one movie.
I'm gonna go with Dune 3. And because I think it's gonna be head to head with Avengers Doomsday. So I'm curious to see, A, does that movie move? And B, how those 2 movies do against each other.
Okay, the 2026 TV show you're looking forward to the most.
Hmm. It's funny because like TV shows now, like they don't come out anymore. Like it's like Severance is gonna come out in like 2029 or something like
Hmm.
crazy. I don't even know what's coming out this year. I love The Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And I feel like that
I've
revved me.
heard good things about that. Yeah,
Oh,
I've heard that
awesome.
people really enjoy that.
Awesome. And I feel like it revved me back up for Game of Thrones. So House of the Dragon. If I do get to add one more, I will say Hacks season 5. Very, very love Hacks. I think it's a great show.
Okay, so you're the head of a major studio, a major Hollywood film studio, and you've been tasked with remaking a previous film. Which film do you pick?
I'm gonna go with The Matrix.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay.
Feel like everyone, like there's such a like, Begonia came out last year, like everyone is so skeptical of like this reality and conspiracy theories and whatever. So, and I feel like, Keanu Reeves is very
He's ageless. I mean, if you
yeah, he's
wanted to use
ageless,
him
but
again,
like,
you could. Who would
yeah,
be your who would be your new Neo though?
maybe like Miles Teller. Maybe Miles Teller in the Neo role.
Yeah,
Could see that.
Miles Teller. Okay. So
Um
you're still the head of a major Hollywood studio, and you're charged with adapting fresh IP into a movie. What would you pick? It can be a book, it can be a video game, it can be anything, but it has not been no one's seen this on the silver screen.
oh man. Fresh IP into a movie. I'm going to go. It's like I'm in a lobby with like really cool jazz music, and I feel like it's like really making me think. Honestly, the only place my mind is going is because I'm a dad of a 2-year-old, and I read so many children's books that I'm like, we got to get this made. So for like, she reads this book called Escargot, and I don't even know if they made anything for Escargot. And it's about this like French snail who's hilarious. I would make that a book. We read the Gruffalo every night, and the Gruffalo, I think they've done a little stuff with the Gruffalo, but that's an amazing piece of kids IP. So like, I feel like all my answers are in the kids realm because all I kind of do is read these picture books now to my 2-year-old.
I had someone on Reddit, they were creating the argument that video game IP is the next new frontier. It's gonna be taking over superhero IP, and they had a really good, proposal. They said Nintendo's next big one should be a Metroid movie. That would do
Oh,
very
that's
well.
awesome. That'd be
Yeah.
sick.
I
Yeah,
was
good
like,
answer.
"Yeah. No, no, that's wonderful." Alright, and last but not least, so you are the president of the United States, and on your desk are the files proving that there's alien life and we've made contact with extraterrestrial beings. Do you release them to the public?
I think I like seep it out there. I think
Okay.
I like I put some breadcrumbs out there. I get like the Joe Rogans of the world talking about it. I warm, I get some like Twitch influencers saying they spotted something. I get the Redditors doing it because like, and eventually like in a year, I'm gonna have to tell people, but I want people to like warm up to it first. I don't want to just like be like, we made contact. I want people to get familiar with the idea first that something's coming.
All right. And we're going to end things right there. Danny, thank you so much for stopping by. Until next
I
year,
got,
good sir.
well, I want to say something to you. This is the first time I've been on a podcast 3 times, and I think it's amazing seeing your growth. And I want to thank you for having me on all these times. I feel like every year has been a way for me to reflect on the previous year. I feel like I don't even feel like I know how I feel about my current, status or some whatever progress. So thank you for having me on, and good job, media people, for the continued success.
Well, thanks for the kind words. Always welcome back. Appreciate having you on. And I always appreciate these discussions as well. Like I have fun putting together, doing the pre production work for our episodes.
Awesome.